Incredible rescue. Single mom saves drowning billionaire. Shocking truth about her past revealed. The sun glistened on the azure waves, a stark contrast to the mundane life Sarah lived. She stood behind the counter of the local diner, her hands busy stacking plates, her mind a swirl of chaos. Bills piled high and dreams of an artist's life fluttered away on the salty breeze. She looked out the window, where laughter ricocheted off the walls of the beach resort. Families gathered for extravagant meals, the clinking of glasses echoing a future she'd long since abandoned. At 32, the weight of raising two kids alone loomed like a storm cloud, reminding her daily of the dreams deferred, the art studio left behind, the pulse of creativity stifled under the weight of responsibility. During her break, she stepped outside, hoping for a moment of respite, a breath untainted by grease and worry. The ocean roared as the wealthy mingled nearby, oblivious to the tumult within her. That's when she noticed him, a strapping figure caught in the undertow, flailing desperately. In that moment, the heaviness of her own life faded away. Sarah didn't hesitate. She dove in, the cold water shocking her system. The currents fought against her, but determination fueled each stroke. She reached him, grasping his wrist with all her strength, pulling him towards shore. As they emerged from the waves, gasping for air, the affluent crowd stood paralyzed, a mix of awe and judgment on their faces. A single mom, a lifeline for a billionaire. Their gazes burned into her skin, and as Jake caught his breath, his eyes held gratitude, but also questions she'd spent a lifetime avoiding. Days rolled into weeks, and Jake, now a frequent visitor at the diner, expressed his thanks through coffee and conversation. Each meeting sparked a connection that twisted inside of her, whipping up old fears she thought she'd buried. Her past danced before her, taunting and teasing with images of flickering candlelight in her father's studio, the smell of oil paints mixing with the promise of possibility. But that legacy was buried in the rubble of family estrangement, a ghost she wasn't ready to confront. Jake encouraged her to embrace that artist within, nudging her closer to the precipice of her inheritance. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. But as the glittering world of wealth enveloped Jake, Sarah's heart ached with uncertainty. The judgment of the wealthy loomed large. How could she step into that space when she felt like an interloper, when her identity was sewn together with threads of struggle? Each day, she stood at the junction of her old dreams and the reality her children needed. Would she betray them by chasing a past that could leave them vulnerable? Panic bubbled within her, muscles tight with the weight of expectation both from herself and from those who didn't understand, who saw only the single mom in a diner, not the artist she once dreamed she could be. And just as whispers of a convoluted family secret surged, she felt the swell of a storm brewing, fierce winds foreshadowing chaos. Heart racing, she wondered if this might tear her between embracing her legacy and guarding her children's future. Would she be swallowed by the tide of judgment, or could she weather the storm? The waves crashed against the shore as uncertainty tangled in her gut, leaving her breathless on the edge of a decision that threatened to redefine everything. Sarah returned to the diner, the smell of fried food mixing with the salt of the ocean still lingering in her senses. The familiar sounds, the clanging of the kitchen, the chatter of regulars felt more suffocating than ever. Each corner held memories of a life once vibrant with colors, but now painted over in shadows of survival, fear, and doubt. The laptop sat idly on the counter, an untouched portal to her past interests, art, imagination, freedom. Jake entered just as she was about to shove her emotions aside. The warmth of his smile contrasted sharply against her turmoil, yet Sarah found solace in it. It was a reminder that some moments could still shine through the fog of her day-to-day struggles. "I've been thinking about our last conversation," he said, his voice confident yet gentle. "About your art." Her pulse quickened. The notion of pursuing her artistic dreams felt like a tightrope walk that could end in a perilous fall. "You know that's not who I am anymore," she replied, attempting to mask the tremor in her voice. "But it could be," Jake countered, his gaze unwavering. "You have a gift, Sarah. You surprised even yourself with that rescue. It's a skill, instinctual, just like your art. Don't you want to embrace it?" The question lingered heavily in the air, weaving through her thoughts. Could she find the courage to peel back the layers of her own identity? Her children deserved a mother who was whole, yet the fragments of her past felt sharp and jagged. The prospect of expressing that through art scared her more than the judgment she already faced daily. "Let us make a plan," Jake suggested, his enthusiasm radiant. "How about preparing a piece for the local gallery? It's a low-stakes opportunity to test the waters." The idea of producing something tangible both excited and terrified her. What if her work was rejected, just as she had felt rejected by her family when she had chosen to favor art over stability? Memories of long nights, trying to find acceptance from her father, gnawed at her resolve. His studio, once a sacred space, felt more like a prison built of expectations. "No, it's too much pressure," she insisted, though part of her ached to say yes. "Pressure is how diamonds are made," Jake quipped softly, sensing her hesitation. "You're not just a single mom or a waitress. You have the potential to inspire others. Think of your kids. Don't they deserve to see you pursue your dreams?" The weight of his words sunk deep into her psyche. They stirred something long dormant and unacknowledged, like the tide revealing hidden treasures. Her children had seen her struggle, but had never witnessed the fire of passion that art ignited within her. This realization shattered part of the fear holding her back. She took a breath, inhaling possibility mingled with apprehension. "Maybe I could try," she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. A flood of relief rushed through her despite the nagging doubt that still clung to her. The days that followed blurred together as she found moments to sketch between shifts, invigorated by Jake's encouragement. Each line she drew felt like reclaiming a part of herself she thought lost forever. But the shadows loomed large. How would she cope with the judgment she still feared? Would her art be deemed inadequate? And what about her kids? Would they understand her need to pursue this dream? Just as she began to gain clarity, an urgent call disrupted her focus. The voice on the other end spoke of an upcoming exhibit at the gallery, a prestigious showcase waiting for candidates to feature. What lay ahead could either solidify her path or demolish her newfound sense of purpose. The moment of truth had arrived. Would she risk everything for art or retreat back to the metaphorical safety of the diner? Each thought sparked a storm of emotions, leaving her once again standing at the edge of a decision that could define not just her future, but her children's as well. Would she dare to leap into the unknown or retreat into the shadows? The weight of this choice loomed over her, trembling on the heart of what could be her most significant transformation yet. The sun crested over the horizon, casting a soft golden hue across the diner's front window. Sarah's heart hammered against her chest as she prepared for another day of serving coffee and eggs, but today felt different. Today, she had a glimmer of anticipation hovering just beyond her routine. Memories of the past week flooded her mind, the sketches she had poured herself into, the moments of joy interspersed with the chaos of motherhood. The very act of creating brought a sense of peace that she hadn't known in years. Yet that peace came with a weighty cloud of doubt. The upcoming exhibit nagged at her thoughts, an incessant reminder of the risk she was preparing to take. What if her pieces fell flat, overlooked by the very patrons she had once wished to impress? The specter of judgment took form in her mind, an unyielding audience that seemed ready to critique every line and color choice she dared to put forth. As she wiped the counter, her eyes wandered to the corner where her laptop stood. Perhaps it was time to delve deeper into her artistic identity. Uncertainty gnawed at her, but a flicker of determination ignited. She couldn't allow fear to dictate her choices. Every sketch, every decision she made had to come from a place of genuine self-acceptance, not the inherited judgments of her past. The morning rush began, spilling over the diner with customers. Each face that passed her was a reminder of the community she tucked herself away from. The mothers who built lives around their passions, the artists who bled their souls onto canvases regardless of failure. In them, she saw pieces of herself, fragments waiting to be assembled. "Busy today, huh?" Jake remarked, sliding into a booth. His easy smile stirred excitement inside her, a sense of camaraderie that transcended their simple diner exchanges. When he joined her for coffee breaks, even brief moments felt like a breath of fresh air, a mutual understanding unspoken yet so glaringly present. "How is the sketching going?" he inquired, knowing full well that expanding her focus felt like a mountain to climb. Sarah hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of the notepad tucked away in her apron. "I've got a few ideas," she finally said, though doubt flirted with every word. "But it feels insignificant compared to nothing about your creativity is insignificant," he interrupted, his tone firm yet affectionate. "Remember what we talked about? It's not just art, it's your voice. It's your chance to inspire someone else who feels as lost as you did." In that moment, she realized that inspiring did not only pertain to her audience, it also spoke to her own journey. Contesting judgment became her new art form. Sarah owed it to her children, to herself, to reshape her identity and reclaim her narrative. By the time her shift ended, the sun cast a warm glow across the diner, each table framed by golden light. The decision she had agonized over began to settle in her bones. She would submit a piece to the gallery. She could feel the resolution taking root. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be honest. As she returned home, the door creaked open, revealing her children gathered around the dinner table. Their laughter mixed with the scent of her latest attempt at cooking, infusing the air with warmth, the essence of home. She leaned against the entrance, watching them, feeling the weight of their dreams pressing against her heart. "What's wrong, Mom?" her eldest son asked, concern warming his voice as his gaze met hers. "Nothing wrong," Sarah replied, forcing a smile. "I'm just thinking about some changes I want to make." Or perhaps, she thought, it was time to uncover the change she had always needed. With Jake's encouragement, her new sense of purpose blossomed, a budding flower fighting against the storm. But as the realization seeped into her daily tasks, she felt shadows linger beyond the door, the looming judgment, the chaos, the whispers of her inadequacies threatening to swamp her resolve. That night, while she stitched together pieces of her art, an unexpected visitor arrived. An envelope, hastily dropped at her doorstep. An ominous message lay within that could unexpectedly unravel every thread she had begun to weave together. What secrets awaited her on the brink of discovery, ready to challenge the very foundation she had built? The following morning, sunlight flickered through the bedroom window, illuminating the crumpled envelope she had left on her nightstand. Sarah sat up, heart racing as she thought of the message it contained. Sleep had eluded her, heavy thoughts mingling with visions of failure and dreams she once held dear. She grabbed the envelope, her fingers trembling as they teased the seal open. Inside lay a single piece of paper, the bold black letters striking dread in her heart. It was an ultimatum demanding she abandon her artistic aspirations and focus entirely on her children. The author of the note remained anonymous, but the tone carried a weight of bitterness that echoed her deepest fears. The implications flooded her with questions. Who had sent this? What did they feel entitled to dictate about her life? An overwhelming wave of panic washed over her. Who did she think she was, daring to chase a dream? Motherhood was demanding enough, and perhaps they were right. Yet, even amidst the turmoil, there stirred something deeper in insistence, a flicker of rebellion against control. The fight in her intensified. She would not let fear, and certainly not someone else's misplaced judgment, dictate her choices. After getting the kids ready for school, she took the chance to lean against the kitchen countertop, eyes cast out the window towards a world that felt both inviting and terrifying. Jake's words echoed in her thoughts, urging her to embrace her creative voice. She felt a familiar pull to the canvas and colors beckoning in her mind, layering over the ordinary chaos of life. Later that day, she dropped the children off at school, lingering only long enough to exchange quick goodbyes. Instead of heading to the diner, she found herself driving toward the local park. It was serene, an oasis of natural beauty that seemed to whisper forgotten ideas. Once parked, Sarah closed her eyes and took a deep breath, inviting inspiration into her being. As she walked the winding trails, vivid images penetrated her thoughts. What if art was not just a response to her internal struggles, but a vital part of her children's lives, too? They deserved to see their mother embody completion, pursuing her dreams while nurturing theirs. What if she painted them, captured their innocence on canvas, bringing their unique traits to life? The thought electrified her, igniting a new commitment within. She rushed home to gather her supplies, determination pulsing through her veins. The kitchen table became her studio, overflowing with paints and brushes. Each stroke felt like a silent protest against the envelope's command, an exhilarating way to assert her independence. With every splash of color, she uncovered parts of herself long thought hidden beneath endless obligations. Later that evening, after the children were asleep, Sarah lit a candle, allowing its warm glow to frame her creations. The breathing sculptures of her childhood, the whimsical nature of her children, and the tumultuous swirl of her emotions converged before her. Every stroke healed as much as it created. She was carving out her space in an otherwise dictated world. Hours slipped away unnoticed, but the urgency of the envelope lingered, whispering reminders of the risk she was taking. What would happen next? The idea of unveiling her art now felt intertwined with the vulnerability she had sown throughout her life. But the more she painted, the more her doubts dissipated, realizing that genuine art transcended the opinions of critics, anonymous or otherwise. Suddenly, a faint noise from the front porch broke her concentration. She stopped, brush hovering over the canvas. Someone was there, lurking in the shadows. Curiosity twisted with anxiety. She had not known what to expect next, but confronting the truth of the envelope had just become something she could no longer ignore. With a pounding heart, she set her brush down and approached the door, drawing a deep breath before opening it wide. What lay beyond could change everything she had just begun to fight for, and she needed to know if it would lead to her freedom or a deeper entrapment. The moment of reckoning had arrived. As Sarah hesitated in the doorway, her hand trembled on the knob. Shadows crept around her, a mix of dim porch light and uncertainty. What awaited her on the other side? She swung the door open wide, heart pounding in sync with her racing thoughts. Standing there was a figure familiar, yet unnerving Jake. His expression was earnest, as though he carried the weight of 100 conversations unsaid. For a moment, the world blurred, and all Sarah could focus on was the urge to slam the door and retreat to her colored sanctuary. "Hey, I saw the light," he stumbled, eyes darting to the art-filled kitchen behind her. A spark of recognition ignited between them, a shared understanding of how fiercely they had battled their own demons. "Jake," she breathed, stepping aside to grant him entry, both hesitant and grateful. A flurry of excitement mixed with anxiety flooded her senses. The enormity of her artistic identity was laid bare, all while standing under the judgment of scrutiny, his or her own. She still wasn't sure. "I didn't want to interrupt," he said, glancing at her paintings as if deciphering a puzzle. "But I thought you might need to talk about the envelope." His mention of it sent a shudder through her spine. The walls closing in, she instinctively pulled back. "I didn't expect you to come here." "I know," he said softly, "but it seemed important. I want to check on you." Sarah felt her defenses ripple. She had summoned the courage to paint her truth, and yet felt exposed by this unplanned confrontation. What did he see in her art? Did it reveal her insecurities, her struggles to synthesize motherhood with her aspirations? The fear clawed at her throat. Would he understand, or would it just reinforce her feeling of inadequacy? "Why'd you care?" she finally asked, her voice steady yet laced with vulnerability. "Why does it matter to you?" Jake stepped closer, his gaze intent and piercing. "Because I believe in you, Sarah. I believe you can do this, be a mother and an artist. You don't have to be one at the expense of the other." His words reverberated in her mind, igniting a flicker of possibility. She questioned herself. Had she ever truly believed that? Could being just a mother and just an artist coexist peacefully? "I received an ultimatum," she admitted, the admission hanging heavily in the air. "Someone thinks I should choose." "People often think they know what's best for others," he replied, shaking his head. "But they aren't living your life. Only you know how to navigate your dreams and responsibilities. Don't let them define your potential." Sarah felt a swell of gratitude wash over her, his unwavering faith in her renewed something dormant within, a voice that whispered she could stand against the tide of disapproval. "What if I fail?" she asked, the word tasting bitter. "Then you fail." The bluntness of his response shocked her. "So what? You'll learn something. You'll pick up that brush again, and you'll fight back. That's what we do." His clear eyes lit a fire inside her. Each sentence he spoke was like the stroke of a brush upon a canvas, bold and transformative. Success and failure were not opposing forces, but rather parts of this intricate dance of life. Painting, motherhood, the two could intertwine, creating a richer tapestry of experience rather than a frayed separation. "I need to show the world my art," she murmured, an ember igniting in her chest. A vision expanded before her, an exhibit featuring her work, filled with the stories of her children, her own heart intertwined within each piece. "And I'll help you," he offered simply, breaking through her chaotic thoughts. "We'll figure out how to make this work." The promise of collaboration hung in the air, blending their dreams and fears into potential action. But deep down, a new concern bubbled. Did she truly grasp the depth of what accepting help entailed? As they discussed the logistics and plans for her art, excitement propelled them forward. Yet along with each idea came a stab of hesitation. Sarah's heart raced, torn in two directions. On one hand, the lure of pursuing her dreams; on the other, the fear of unraveling under the pressure built by expectation. That night, with swirling thoughts of identity and empowerment, she had a decision awaiting her. Was she ready not just to embrace her passion, but allow another into her chaotic mix of aspirations? This was the crux of finding herself, and it loomed closer than she had anticipated. In an unexpected moment of quiet, as Jake prepared to leave, he glanced back at her. "Remember, it's not just about proving something to others. It's about understanding your own vision. Follow it." The tips of his words echoed within her, stretching across her resolve and vulnerability. But following her vision, how simple and yet profoundly terrifying that felt. The ground shifted under her. Could she claim this journey for herself? And in that moment of decision, Sarah felt the air thicken with possibility. She had to confront the voice that questioned if she truly could balance these disparate parts of her life, wrestling between unfathomable fear and newfound determination. Her heart raced again as she pulled out a new canvas, brush poised above it, an image forming in her mind. Sweet chaos, vibrant colors, and the juxtaposition of motherhood against unrealized aspirations. In that instant, she felt the weight of not just personal failure or societal judgment, but her potential to break through and redefine both roles. The moment of clarity began to dawn. Once more, the canvas awaited, whispering promises of exploration and expression. But amidst her resolve lived an unfamiliar shadow, creeping in with doubts cloaked as concerns. Would she find support or return to the confines of expectation? As she began her first stroke, the ring of her phone forced her to pause. Another unexpected interruption. The unfamiliar number glowed ominously on the screen, and her gut twisted as she debated whether to answer it. What awaited her on the other end could forever change the path she dared to embrace. Would it be more envelopment or an invitation into the unknown? Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she stared at the glowing screen. Each ring seemed to pull her heartbeat into a frantic crescendo, amplifying the weight of the moment. She didn't recognize the number, yet a deep instinct tugged at her curiosity. "Come on," she muttered under her breath, the internal debate with herself spiraling. Was it fear or potential? The very essence of what she was trying to discover hung in the balance. Finally, with a decisive plunge into the unknown, she swiped to answer. "Hello, Ms. Sarah Williams?" The voice was smooth yet demanding, a stark contrast to her everyday chaos. "Yes, this is she." "Excellent. This is Jacob Trent from Silverline Investments. I believe we have something to discuss regarding your art and the recent proposal you submitted." Her heart stuttered. The proposal. The one she thought might slip through the cracks, chased but never caught. Could this be the opportunity that would unlock everything? "Yes, of course. I wasn't sure if. You didn't think we'd take notice?" He interrupted, exuding a confidence that made her doubt the strength of her own resolve. "Your work is compelling, unique. We're interested in featuring it in a gallery show we're sponsoring next month." She froze. A mix of elation and anxiety surged within her. This was uncharted territory, a chance to propel herself into the world she had longed for. Yet the impending pressure loomed like a menacing cloud. "That's amazing. I'm honored." However, he continued, as if sensing her unbridled joy, "There are strings attached. We need a theme that resonates more deeply than just visuals. We want a story." A story. The very foundation of her art rested on personal experience, vulnerable truths she was still grasping. Did she hold the power to encapsulate and expose those narratives under the scrutinizing gaze of strangers? The creative dance of motherhood and artistry swirled in her mind, forming a narrative line glazed with complexity. "I can do that," she assured, her voice steadier than the whirlwind inside. "I'll find a way to share my vision." "Good. I'll send over the details. We expect a draft of your theme within a week." The call ended abruptly, leaving her gripping the now silent phone as if it were the very paintbrush she longed to wield. Reality crashed in time, was pressing. A deadline danced at the edge of her consciousness. But as excitement lingered tantalizingly in the air, so too did uncertainty. What story could she tell? The prospect of combining her personal narrative of motherhood with her artistic journey sent her imagination spiraling. Yet each new idea was quickly shadowed by self-doubt. Could she draw from the depths of her emotions, presenting the world with her truth? This could be the fork in the road she feared yet desired. She stared at the canvas, the colors waiting like characters poised on the brink of an adventure. She felt new urgency wash over her. She needed a strategy, a plan of execution, not just for the deadline, but for the arms of fear that would inevitably reach for her. Grabbing her notebook, she jotted ideas frantically, weaving together thoughts about her children, the weight of expectations tethering her, and the chaos of everyday life as both a mother and an artist. Each word deepened the wellspring of her creativity, but also unveiled the rawness of her insecurities. She had to confront that vulnerability. It was pivotal to embrace it, to allow her art to become an act of defiance against the whispers that told her she could not balance both her personal life and her ambitions. And then, in a moment of clarity, she realized that the theme could embody a revolution, a canvas depicting the duality of her life, the colors of chaos and care. Each stroke would reflect not just who she was, but who she aspired to be unapologetically. This was her entry into the world, a chance to announce her existence as a mother and an artist. The brush trembled in her hand as she leaned forward, poised to capture this momentum. But a nagging worry seeped into her budding confidence. What if this wasn't enough? What if they saw through her facade, exposing inadequacies she tried so hard to mask? As she began to paint, her strokes took on a life of their own, unleashing layers of emotion onto the empty canvas. The rhythm of her brush mirrored the heartbeat of her thoughts, fierce yet faltering, bold yet questioning. With every movement, she embraced the dichotomy of her existence. Then the ringing of her phone interrupted again, the same unfamiliar number flashing before her eyes. This time, it felt less like an invitation and more like a challenge. Did she have the strength to answer, knowing it might bring her closer to the truth she was both pursuing and avoiding? There was only one way to find out. With a swift intake of breath, She accepted the call, ready to confront the unknown again. What revelations awaited her this time? Sarah pressed the phone to her ear, heart racing. "Hello." She managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Ms. Williams, I appreciate your promptness." Jacob Trent's tone was brisk, almost clinical. "We'd like to meet to discuss the specifics of our collaboration. This is a unique opportunity for you, and we want to ensure we're aligned on the vision." "Of course. When do you suggest?" "Tomorrow at noon, if you're available. Silvaline's gallery office is downtown. I'll send you the address." Her mind whirled as she responded mechanically. "Yes, that works for me." After they exchanged pleasantries, she hung up, the gravity of the meeting weighing heavier than the paint-laden brush in her hand. The next day dawned crisp and bright, but Sarah felt anything but. Standing before her mirror, she scrutinized her reflection. Would they take her seriously? Did professional artists wear sweatpants and carry spit-up stains on their shirts? The disheveled chaos of her reality clashed violently with her ambitions. Shaking off the doubt, she dressed with intention in a simple black dress and a blazer that softened her silhouette. It was a facade, an armor she donned for the battle of perception ahead. As she stepped into the bustling streets, the city pulsed with energy, each face unaware of her internal struggle. Could she navigate this world? Each step towards Silvaline Investments felt like she was inching closer to the precipice of a vast unknown. Upon entering the gallery, familiar sense of paint and varnish wrapped around her like a comforting hug, momentarily easing her tension. The walls held stories immortalized on canvas, and for a heartbeat, she allowed herself to dream of her work sharing that same fate. "Ms. Williams?" A deep voice interrupted her reverie. She turned to see Jacob, tall and impeccably dressed, his presence radiating confidence. "Mr. Trent," she replied, forcing a smile that felt tight on her lips. "Pleasure to meet you in person." He gestured toward a small conference room filled with natural light spilling in from large windows. "Shall we discuss how to elevate your proposal?" As they sat across the polished table, Sarah felt exposed, as if he could read the doubts etched in her expression. "I'm excited about the opportunity. I've been thinking a lot about the theme. Let us hear it." His eagerness sparked something in her, an ember of determination igniting against the suffocating heat of anxiety. "The colors of chaos and care," she stated, buzzing with a new energy. "It's about the duality of motherhood, the chaos of daily life, alongside moments of beauty and connection." Jacob leaned forward, interest piqued. "How do you plan to convey that through your art?" Her eyes lit up as she dove deeper, articulating visions of family dynamics and silent struggles, of vivid colors representing the depth of joy and sorrow. Each description acted as a release, shedding layers of her previous doubts. "This is compelling," he noted, "but the story should be personal, evocative. Your uniqueness lies in your experiences. What does this mean for you?" His question sank into her chest, a realization reverberating through her. The heart of her art wasn't just the chaos of motherhood, but the courage to embrace vulnerability. Could she expose the fears that held her back? "I've wrestled with balance," she admitted, her voice steady despite the wave of discomfort. "I feel torn between being an artist and a mother. Sometimes it seems impossible to commit to both." "Now we're getting somewhere," Jacob encouraged. "Your authenticity could resonate. That's the narrative we need." The conversation flowed easily, their professional rapport strengthening her resolve. She could visualize the pieces of her life fitting together, revealing not just a theme, but a full-fledged narrative. As their discussion wrapped up, Jacob leaned back, arms crossed, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Your work could genuinely touch people. But remember, exposure comes with risk. You must ask yourself if you are ready to unveil your truths to the world." The words hung heavily in the air. Was she truly prepared to let her personal struggles lay bare? As she left the gallery, her heart raced with anticipation and anxiety. This was a pivotal moment, a firm step onto a path she had often flirted with but never fully embraced. The stakes were rising, and Sarah realized she needed to confront her past which loomed like a shadow behind her. But before she could fully process her thoughts, a message pinged on her phone. A reminder of the things she left unresolved. Would this journey demand more than she had anticipated? The next chapter of her life was unfolding, and Sarah sensed she was standing on the brink of discovery, both exhilarating and daunting. Would she find the courage to reveal her truth, or would fear hold her back once again? The evening sky deepened like a bruise as Sarah sat on the edge of her bed, the remnants of the day's conversation swirling in her mind like restless spirits. Her fingers danced over her phone as she drafted responses to Jacob's questions, her artistic vision still ignited within her. Yet, with every stroke of her finger, questions grew louder. What truths was she willing to expose? What consequences awaited her on this path of vulnerability? In a moment of impulsive clarity, she hit send on the message, detailing her thoughts about incorporating her personal experiences into the artwork. The words spilled onto the screen, every sentence a declaration of her journey. Then she leaned back, catching her breath as a mixture of relief and dread washed over her. Days passed, and her proposal began to take shape. But the dark corners of her mind ambushed her at night, replaying every moment of her motherhood exhaustion, laughter, isolation, and connection. Each memory tugged at her, demanding recognition and expression. Her 2 young children were the beating heart of her story, yet the thought of sharing her struggles left her throat tight. Would they see the chaos, or would they only see the woman she had become, battling to find her voice amidst the demands of parenting? One deceptive afternoon, Sarah decided to visit a local cafe, hoping the buzz of conversation would be enough to spur her creativity. Seated in a sunlit nook, she began sketching in her notebook without any firm plan. But as words flowed, her pen carved out images of her children, a tangled mess of crayons, laughter, and the subtle weight of expectations resting on her shoulders. Yet, as she drew, the compassion she held for herself began to blossom. The sketches didn't just represent chaos. They expressed resilience. "Can I get you anything else?" A voice interrupted her reverie. It was the barista, wiping his hands on his apron. "No, thank you," she replied, distractedly absorbing the sound of other conversations around her. An idea flashed, a realization. To genuinely connect with her audience, she needed to convey the raw vulnerability that came with motherhood rather than the polished facade she often wore. As she returned home, art supplies cradled in her arms, a flicker of determination ignited in her. Each brushstroke could convey the honesty she found challenging to articulate. That night, exhaustion crashed over her as she prepared dinner. The chaotic rhythm of mealtime enveloped her, children laughing and bickering over who would eat what. Yet within the madness, a nugget of clarity emerged. This was the very essence she needed to explore in her art. This wasn't merely about reflections of motherhood. It was about navigating the storm of daily life, embracing the chaotic beauty that it contained. But every revelation brought with it the looming specter of judgment, both internal and external. The very thought of her truth being dissected left her breathless. Could she withstand criticism for baring her soul? The risk felt monumental, yet suffocating under the weight of fear wasn't an option. Just as self-doubt began to rear its head, a sudden ping on her phone tore through her reflection. It was from Jacob, an invitation for a follow-up meeting to discuss her progress. The urgency of his request brought the adrenaline back to life in her veins. As she read the message, a wave of panic crashed over her. The deeper she delved into her narrative, the more vulnerable she would be. This wasn't just an opportunity. It demanded her wholehearted commitment to her emotional truth. With a determined sigh, she began to prepare for the next meeting, insights swirling within her as possibilities loomed larger. As the hour approached, she understood something vital. Every part of her journey was valuable. The chaos, the love, and the fear were all woven intricately into her identity as both an artist and a mother. And as she stood before the mirror one last time before the meeting, a new resolve blossomed within her. Maybe it wasn't just about creating art. It was about finding liberation in her truth. The stakes felt irreversibly high, and with that weight came immeasurable strength. She closed her eyes, whispering a silent promise that she would embrace the confrontation ahead, that she would lay bare the very essence of who she was. As she stepped out, a thought crystallized. The time had come to face the chaos. But uncertainty lingered. Would the world welcome her messy truths or cast her aside for being too authentic? It was time to discover the answer. Sarah arrived at the small gallery, her heart drumming in anxious rhythm against her chest. The ambience was charged with creative energy, and she felt herself teetering on the edge of exhilaration and dread. Jacob, seated at a table draped in white cloth, scanned the room, his expression a blend of excitement and expectation. "Hey, you made it," he greeted, standing up and extending a hand. The warm grip he offered eased a fraction of her tension. "Thank you for having me," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. They exchanged pleasantries before settling down, and Jacob wasted no time. "So, tell me what you've been working on." His eyes sparkled with curiosity as Sarah began to articulate her vision. Speaking of raw motherhood and chaos, she found unexpected confidence pouring from her lips. She shared her sketches and the deep-rooted emotions that had inspired them. Each word ignited a fire within her as she realized how deeply she wanted her audience to connect with her truth. Jacob leaned in, his interest palpable. "You're saying this is going to be personal?" "Very," she admitted, her heart racing. "More than I've ever shared before." He paused, considering her for a moment. "That's exactly what we need. Authenticity. People resonate with genuine experiences." The weight of his validation settled upon her like a soft blanket, but the familiar anxiety prickled at the edges of her consciousness. But what if they don't like it? What if they don't understand? Then you've shown them who you are. Being vulnerable, especially as a mother, has power, Sarah. Remember, your journey isn't just yours. It's something many people can relate to, he assured her, leaning back. You're not alone in feeling this way. His sincerity offered a small, yet significant comfort. Yet the looming fear of exposure remained. Would sharing her story create connections, or would it unravel them? As they discussed logistics, her excitement grew. They considered the theme of the exhibition, the placement of the artwork, all visual elements carefully aligned to reflect her narrative. Ideas shot back and forth, each one initiating a fresh wave of inspiration, echoing her thoughts on chaotic beauty and emotional resilience. But deeper reflections awaited her. Would the audience, upon viewing her work, understand the moments of despair entwined within the laughter? How much of herself was she willing to reveal? She was driven by the prospect of truth, yet wary of possible backlash. The meeting culminated in a shared commitment. They finalized an outline for the exhibition, and Jacob insisted they schedule regular check-ins to foster accountability and ensure her vision remained intact. As she walked home, the brisk air filled her lungs, waking her spirit. With every step, a greater determination rooted itself in her heart. Perhaps embracing her story wasn't just about confronting fears. It was an act of creation, an opportunity to forge connections beyond the canvas. Upon entering her home, she was greeted by the familiar symphony of her children's laughter. Their pure joy wrapped around her like warmth on a winter's day. And for a moment, all doubts receded. She gathered them close, capturing their smiles in her mind, knowing they would echo into her artwork. Yet, as daylight faded and the chill of night fell, her focus shifted. The fear persisted, whispering in her ear. Was she truly ready to peel back the layers of her life for the world to scrutinize? Just as she picked up her brush, poised to add raw strokes to her canvas, a notification pinged on her phone. Another message from Jacob, short and penetrating. "What is holding you back?" The question loomed large, forcing her to confront the depths of her motivations. As she contemplated her response, she recognized the gap between desire and hesitation. Would she allow this challenge to hinder her growth, or could she transform it into a compelling narrative? The time had come not just to question her fears, but to understand them. What truths lay buried beneath her self-doubt, waiting to emerge in her art? And as she set down her phone, a new urgency lit her path. A revelation awaited, one that could either liberate or shatter her. It was time to face the real challenge, her own shadow. As the dawn broke, casting a tender warmth over Sarah's workspace, she felt a steely resolve solidify in her chest. A sense of clarity washed over her like the tide receding from the shore, revealing not just a canvas, but a renewed identity sculpted from the vivid memories and struggles that had shaped her. Today, she would embrace the fullness of her story, chaotic, imperfect, and beautiful. The previous week had been filled with relentless introspection, and every brushstroke she had made began to form a compelling narrative, one that spoke to the intensity of her experiences as both a mother and a fervent artist. Each canvas, once a platform of anxiety, became a declaration of independence, seeking not the approval of a judgmental audience, but rather echoing her undeniable truth. With the exhibition date looming, Sarah dedicated herself fully to embodying the essence of her theme, the colors of chaos and care. Each piece emerged not only as an exploration of her external world, but as a dialogue with her inner self. There were chaotic splashes representing the whirlwind of motherhood, moments filled with laughter, arguments over bedtime, and colorful crayon drawings scattered across her home. These merged seamlessly with softer hues depicting moments of connection, the quiet snuggles after a long day, the art she witnessed through her children's eyes, and the fierce love binding their family together against the odds. Throughout the process, Sarah's anxiety transformed into excitement. She sought to unveil vulnerability through every stroke. No longer burdened by the weight of an ultimatum, she flavored her creations with tales that resonated with maternal authenticity, striving to inspire those who crossed the gallery threshold. Soon, whispers of anticipation settled, enveloping her in a new, unwavering confidence. The day of the exhibition arrived with the unexpected thrill of adrenaline. Standing amidst her installations, she felt both dignified and exposed. Families strolled through the thriving gallery, engaging with her works, studying her colors, interpreting her visions wisely. Good-hearted people discussed their experiences, laughter underscoring the importance her art held within their own lives. It was a sight Sarah had fantasized about in unguarded moments, but not until now did it feel genuinely achievable. The room filled with the hum of appreciation for her work. A familiar face caught her eye. Jake stood in the corner, watching with a proud smile, his presence igniting a sense of solidarity. In that moment, she recognized the beauty of support manifesting beyond mere words, a shared understanding of the battles fought and conquered. He stepped forward to admire a piece specifically capturing the essence of chaos, swirling amidst undying love. "This is stunning," he said softly, his voice filled with sincerity. "You've transformed all of it into something powerful." Sarah took his words to heart, realizing not just how far she had progressed in embracing her identity, but the profound impact of sharing her journey. Art had, undeniably, become her bridge to vulnerability. Reflecting on the raw courage it took to step into the world with her heart on display, she felt a deep satisfaction settle. That evening, beneath the soft glow of strings of fairy lights illuminating the gallery, Sarah accepted the accolades given for her work not as a sign of personal achievement or validation from others, but as a triumphant culmination of profound transformation. Her children joined her, their laughter threaded with pride as they explored the scenes she painted in their likeness. They couldn't fully comprehend the deeper stories, but their smiles radiated enough warmth to erase years of self-doubt. As she witnessed their joy, Sarah grasped the importance of embodied legacy. This wasn't just an exhibition. It was a celebration of dreams unfolding against adversity. By financing her art and her parenting in tandem, she had proven to herself and her family that it was possible to honor both identities without compromising one for the other. She stepped into the room, filled with newfound recognition not tied to her past, but established proudly in the present. Months later, positive reviews from the exhibition had catapulted her visibility in the local art community. Viewers praised her authentic voice and emotional depth. Sarah had garnered invitations to future exhibits, and she relished each opportunity to expand her narrative through her work. Invitations flooded in art fairs, collaborative projects. She was on the cusp of a burgeoning career, one she never could have envisioned. Ultimately, as she continued to weave together the threads of her life, motherhood, and artistry, Sarah realized that her journey was not solely about personal achievement, but an invaluable journey to self-discovery. The tumultuous growth she once feared had become her greatest asset. Through embracing her chaos, she found peace, community, and the courage to inhabit her truth in this moment of genuine accomplishment. Renewed clarity settled within her, weaving her past experiences into something indisputable. She was an artist, and not just any artist, but a fiercely dedicated mother, embodying the rich tapestry of both worlds. Each day, she awoke with confidence and an unwavering promise to continue pursuing her artistic expression. The light of creation, now an essential aspect of her family's journey. She stood gazing at her children, painting at the table. The love visible in their eyes mirrored the promise she had made, to nurture their dreams alongside her own. Moving forward, she would celebrate both chaos and care, ensuring her legacy would resonate through every brushstroke she crafted. Now, we need you to support this journey of personal transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make sure these inspiring tales reach others who need them. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.